Welcome, welcome, one and all. And of course, we've extended an invitation to you to be here with us today and with the beautiful lady who's smiling, Lisa Douglas from the NIS Public Relations Officer. Lisa, hello, and thank you for being with us. Welcome to today's program.
Well, thank you for having us, and a very pleasant evening, a pleasant day to all your viewers and listeners.
Right. And so we've been hearing the talks. I know you've been making the rounds talking to people about this, the new self employed regulations. And of course, you're here with us to share with our viewers and listeners. So let's go get straight into it. I know it's exciting. You always have a smile when you come with the information because you know it's exciting. Talk to us about those regulations.
Most certainly, we have been doing island wide consultations. We've been in all our parishes so far, and we are very excited to present that to our self employed persons. And maybe I'm a little extra excited because I have a lot of family and friends who are self employed, so I'm very happy for this. No, some years ago, we had consultations with persons who are self employed, and we wanted to find out from them, what are we not doing right? And that's making you not register and contribute. Tell us, we want to know, we want to get it correct. So they gave us some suggestions, they raised some issues, they raised some concerns, and all of that. We put it together, we did a framework, we worked with an actuary, and coming out of their suggestions, their complaints, the issues that they pointed out, we came up with a new self-employed approach, and now it has been passed and it's now law starting July 1st. So our self-employed persons would have said, well, you're treating us like employers. You have a specific time frame in which we must contribute. So every month we must pay, but we don't earn every month. We earn differently. In fact, you're also charging us penalties and interest when we pay after a deadline because you have this fixed deadline for us. And in addition to that, you're telling us how much to pay every month, but that's not how we earn. And there are persons who are employees also, but they have their own business. I mean, we should be able to pay both as a self employed person as an employee. So the NIS listened and the NIS came up with some new regulations. So starting July 1st, we're letting persons who are self employed know that you can now pay as you earn. So let's suppose your peak time during the year are 4 times, you can pay 4 times. Let's suppose you have one peak period, you can pay all your contributions when you earn during that one period. So you get to pay in lump sums instead of a fixed amount every month. So you would set your target based on your business, based on how you earn, and you pay to meet your target whenever the funds are available. In addition to that, it means there would no longer be late payments. So you would not be charged surcharge and interest since there is no deadline for you to pay. Once you make your payment between January 1st and December 31st, then you're in time. And once you contribute this year, it covers you for the benefits next year. So we have rethought the entire concept of self employed payments.
Okay, and how does that affect the amount of contributions that one's supposed to make? Or is there a minimum amount of contributions that the self-employed need to make per year?
Yes, there is a
Okay,
minimum. So the
okay.
minimum would be $769 per year. So once you pay at least $769, you're covered for all NIS benefits, meaning you're covered for sickness, you're covered for employment injury, including a full refund of your medical expenses if you become injured on the job. You're covered for all the maternity benefits. You're covered for the age benefit, invalidity, survivors, and our new unemployment benefit that we introduced starting May 1st. You're covered for everything once you contribute a minimum of 769 annually. Of course, there's also a maximum of 7,180. Now, if you pay over the maximum, the overpayment is rolled over into the next year. And if you pay below the minimum, it only covers you for the long term benefits, meaning the pensions, that is age, invalidity, and survivors. But once you want to be covered for all the benefits, including sickness, including medical expenses, including unemployment, you must pay at least 769.
So that brings us to my next question in terms of the percentage. What percent of that income are you required to pay to the NIS?
Now, that is for us to work out. So when you make your payment, we would work back our depend based on the rate now, we would work back to calculate how much contribution weeks and how much insurable earnings that equals to, right? So if you
Right,
want
right.
to know, of course, we would let you know. But one of the things we got out of is making self-employed persons do calculations. Yeah. Most self-employed persons don't want to think about how to calculate this and what is 12% of this and what is 11%. They don't want to think about that. They just want to know, I have the money now, I want to pay, and I want to get benefits. So when you pay, you could ask us questions like, well, what would my benefits be like? So we would do the calculation and just provide you with the information. So let's suppose I want to ensure that I could get a pension of X amount. Well, you could call us or come in and say, well, listen, this is what I want my pension to be like. Tell me how much I need to pay. Yeah. So we would be able to advise you accordingly, but you would not need to do the calculations yourself.
That's really interesting because some of us just want to say, just tell me how much to pay. Yeah, let me come, let me come. You know, well, so far, so good. Now, what about? I know that there were penalties and so on associated with lateness and all of that. What's new with this?
No more penalties for self-employed persons simply because you're paying when you earn. So there is no way for the NIS to determine when you would earn because that would be dependent on your business. It would be dependent on your season, when it's your season. So for example, right now we're in the carnival season. So our artists, time to register, time to contribute. Our DJs, same thing. You are now covered. So you can't say, well, listen, this DJ thing is not a consistent thing, is when I make my money. So now we're allowing you to pay when you make the money. So hence the reason we're no longer charging self-employed persons to charge on and interest.
Oh, nice. But there are scenarios like myself. I'm an employee and I'm a self-employed at the same time. So how does that work for me? How do I calculate what I need to do? What are the benefits for me under this new self-employment?
The
Um,
benefit for you is that it would improve the amount you would get when you're claiming. So, for example, let's suppose right now with your employer, you earn $2,000, right? But you could decide, well, I'm also self employed, so let me top up. So, as a self employed person, you're paying an extra 1,000. It means when we're calculating your benefit, we'll be calculating it based on a salary of $3,000 instead of 2,000. So, it means your benefits would be better because you are paying more.
oh, okay. So at the end of the day, it's combined in a
Yes,
sense.
it's combined.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. How can persons register? Because people who are self-employed listening to this, I guess they'll be getting excited by now. Yeah, I see some people online already commenting on this. So how can people register as a self-employed?
Right. Now, to register, if you already have an NIS number, you don't even need to come into the office, right? What we've also done is to eliminate paperwork, the requirement for self employed persons to do paperwork. So if you already have an NIS number, you can call us and we can walk through the process. We also have a web portal. You can contact us through your web portal account and we could complete the entire process for you. The only thing you need to do is either come in to make your payment, or if you have online banking, you could make your payments through online banking. So you actually do not necessarily need to come into the NIS office. You're busy, that's okay. Now, if you have never registered with the NIS previously, then you would need to come in with your certified birth certificate, any form of ID. We would register you. You still don't need to complete paperwork. Our registration process is paperless. We would register you, assign an NIS number to you, and all you need to do is to make your payment. So you have no paperwork to complete. And as I said, once you pay this year, whatever you pay is converted into contribution weeks and insurable earnings, and that would be used to cover you for benefits the following year.
Right. Is there like a cap for persons who are self-employed and also employees of other
Yes,
establishment or businesses, like a yearly
yes,
cap? Okay.
yes. There's a cap of $7,180. That's the most you could pay in 1 year combined. But as
Okay.
I said, if you pay more, it's rolled over into the next year.
Okay. There might be some people who might just be tempted to say, okay, I'm self-employed. I did a couple work, and I think. Here's $200 from probably what I would have, does it work that way, or you would need to get a breakdown on how they arrived at the 200 and,
No,
and,
no,
and so
no.
on?
It works that way. You make your $200 now, come in right now, pay your $200. The next time you make another two, you come in, you pay the two. The next time you make a five, come in, you pay your five. So you see, one time there, you've already crossed the minimum.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
minimum is 760. So you see how it works.
Yes, yes, yes.
Minimum is 769 already. You paid two. You paid two. That's four. Then you paid five. That's you already covered $900. So if that's all you paid for the year, next year that is converted into insurable earnings
All
and
right.
contributions.
And, and,
Yes.
and, and and some of the benefits you have, like everybody else who is working, right, as a self-employed, to get all, and you also have sickness benefit and so on, right? If something
Yes.
happens to you.
Yes. So I'm an artist, right? Right now, during the carnival season, we always get a bad cold after, right?
Right, right.
So you become ill, now you can't sing, your throat block up, you go to the doctor gives you a sick leave. You're entitled to claim for sickness benefit. So based on what you paid, you would receive 65% of whatever your insurable earnings worked out to be. So in addition to that, when paying, always remember your benefits would be a percentage of your insurable earnings or your salary.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All
So
right,
don't try
smooth.
to pay the minimum and then you expect your benefits to be calculated based on the maximum.
Right. Okay. Any additional information for us regarding the new self-employed regulations?
Well, we're letting our self employed persons know, and I'm going to mention the benefits again because sometimes you hear self employed persons saying, well, we didn't have no benefits to get. Now, if you get sick, you're covered for sickness benefit for the period of your sick leave. If you have a baby, you're entitled to maternity benefits for up to 12 weeks. In addition to that, there's a maternity grant. Then there is the employment injury benefits, where we pay you 70% of your income if you get injured on the job. We cover all your medical and traveling expenses that are associated with that in treating that injury or disease. We cover that in full. So your doctor's visits, your tests or scans, any expense that you incur under an employment injury related disease or an occupational disease. And we also cover you for unemployment. So if you involuntarily lost your job, even as a self employed person, you are covered. You're also covered for funeral. You're also covered for survivors, invalidity, and for age benefit when you reach your golden years.
All right, sounds good. Speaking of golden years, and I know there's been a lot of conversation about the retirement age moving and so on, a lot of conversations about that and more. Let's talk about the key findings of the 13th actual review.
Okay, now coming out of the 13th actuarial review, we had some similar findings and recommendation. In fact, dating back to the seventh review in 2002, the findings and recommendations were almost the same, just that the time period we have to implement those changes got shorter and shorter as Grenada delayed implementing those recommendations.
Right.
So by the time the 13th review came around, because every 3 years we're required to carry out an actuarial review. And by the time the 13th review recommendation came out, we realized that the actuary recommended a gradual increase in the pensionable age, among other changes, which together can help save our NIS. Thankfully, I must say that our policymakers have now listened, and some of these changes have now been gazetted and is now law. And one of them is the gradual increase in the pension age. So come 2024, the pension age would be 61. And that is necessary because if you look at our annual reports, and it's online for everybody to see, you'd realize that since 2016, the NIS started to pay out more than it's collecting. And for any business, that's not sustainable. So at first, investment income was used to cover the shortfall. But since 2021, you'd realize we started to dip into the reserves. So we like to say, well, NIS has a lot of money. But in 2021, over $14 million out of the reserves had to be used to cover NIS expenses, meaning benefits, etc. In 2022, again, it happened. And it is projected that in 2023, over $22 million out of the reserves would have to be used to cover expenses. So it means if we continue like that, eventually there will be no reserve. So we must make changes. We must save our NIS, because for most Grenadians, our NIS pension is the only source of income we have to depend on in our golden years. And even now, when we get sick or if we get injured, etc. So the gradual increase in the pension age will start next year, 2024, where it would move to 61. So that would be the retirement age. Then 2025, it would be 62 until it gets to 65 in 2028. Now,
Uh,
although the age would start increasing and would increase, persons will now have the option of early retirement if they so desire. So we want you to wait, but if you don't want to wait for the increased age and you want it at any age 60 and after, then it will be at a reduced rate. For every year you take it earlier than you're supposed to, there would be a reduction factor of 5% in your pension rate.
I got you. Interesting. And what about what are some of the other key findings from that review?
Right. So that recommendation was actually gazetted. So July 28th, that was gazetted. But we do have other changes that's not yet gazetted. So we have the gradual increase in the contribution rate. So it's now at 12%, but it's recommended that a 0.5% increase be introduced. So every year, employees would pay an extra 0.25%, and employers likewise, until it moves from 12% this year to
16.
16% in 2031.
Mm, okay. All right then. Okay. And that those changes have been brought to the public in terms of by virtue of consultations and so
Yeah.
on, so that people understand why those changes are being made, and
Yes.
they were receptive to those recommendations. Yes.
Very much so. In fact, we started these consultations in 2019. Yeah, we visited all parishes, including PT Martinique, and eventually persons understood that, listen to me, if we don't do this, we would lose NIS. It means that most of us would not be covered when we lose, income if we're sick, etc. So the reception was good. And this year, again, going out, in fact, what persons have been saying this year is, why are you all coming back to us and you did not do anything? And in 2019, you gave us the guarantee that you will make the changes,
Right.
but you're
Yes.
coming back to us singing the same song and you have done nothing.
Right.
So the reception was actually good.
Right.
But one thing I must mention also,
Mhm.
when the pension age starts increasing, it will now be a retirement pension. So in order to get the pension, you must retire. So right now you could work and receive your full salary and your full pension. But it will now become a retirement pension where to receive it, you must retire. So if you
Okay.
continue to work, you would not be able to claim for your NIS pension.
Right.
But there there's one exception. If you're earning less than 60% of the insurable earning ceiling, which is $5,000, if you're earning 60 less than 60% of $5,000, then you could get both. Meaning if you're earning less than $3,000.
Right. I got you. All right. Interesting. What about the pension formula? Would that be, or is there any recommendation for that to be adjusted as well?
Yes, yes. The pension formula currently, when we're calculating your pension, you receive 30% of your best salary upfront, and for every addition for the first 10 years you work. So for the first 10 years, meaning you have 500 contribution weeks, you get 30% of your best salary, and for each additional year you work, you receive an additional 1%. Now that is also changing, where you would receive 25% upfront and then 1% for each additional year. And usually pension formulas like this are usually front loaded when you have a new social security scheme to ensure that persons qualify for a decent pension. But as you reach the stage of maturity where most persons would qualify, you have also increased your insurable earning ceiling, then you can adjust the formula now for sustainability reasons and still ensuring that persons receive a decent pension.
Right. All right. Sounds good. What about the increase in the number of contributions that one would make? I know. I mean, if we are talking about, I mean, we've seen where NIS has found itself technically, and if we continue to do what we were doing, then we probably would end up there again. And so, no, I know that you'll be forward thinking, and in forward thinking, you may also have to talk about or think about. The contributions, the number of contributions that people make. So, is there any plan for that as well?
Yes, there is. And in fact, you'd realize that a lot of other social security institutions in the region, like St. Vincent and Antigua, etc., they have had to do the same thing because we have the same type of social security fund, that's defined benefit fund, where what you get is not based on how much you pay. Because even if you have not paid enough to get it, you still get it. Yeah. So increasing the number of weeks, the minimum number of weeks required for a pension is another change that has to be implemented. So we would move from 500 weeks, right now that's the minimum, to a minimum of 750 weeks. And that would be done incrementally also. So starting 2024, it would move from 500 to 525. Then in
Okay.
2025, it would move from 525 to 550.
550.
So every year, you add an additional 25 contribution weeks
Until it gets to 750.
until it gets to 750.
All right. Wow, Lisa, this has been a very fruitful conversation. I do not know if there's anything else you would like to add before we wrap up tonight.
Yes, there are actually other changes that we've made.
Okay.
So for everyone receiving a survivor's benefit, or for all children who a survivor's benefit claim was made, and NIS would have said, well, listen, the child is over 16, so he or she cannot qualify to get the survivor's benefit. That has changed. So now to qualify, the child at the date of death of the parent must be 18. So that age has increased. Of course, they would continue getting it once they're still in school up to the maximum age of 21. So that's an improvement that has been made. In addition to that, the law previously stated in order for the child to receive the benefit, the parent must have been maintaining the child. that requirement has also been removed. So once you can certify, once you can prove that is the person's child, whether biological or stepchild, including if it was a case of a child in a common law union, once you could prove that it's the person's child, then the child will receive the benefits. Um, Other parameters have been changed to ensure that there is more flexibility for survivors. So remember, once somebody is contributing to NIS, and they pass and they have children under age 18, from August 1st, they can now qualify for a survivor's benefit. So it's important for parents to put structures in place. We don't know what's going to happen. We always prefer, and I pray every day that I could live to see my children, get old and have grandchildren, but we don't know what's going to happen. So we still have to put structures in place so that whomever will be the guardian of the child, or you have a spouse, maybe the spouse needs to know that, look, if I pass, whatever I contributed to NIS can be passed on to my children. So a claim need to be made. It's not just for the funeral grant. So sometimes we ask how much is a funeral grant, but we never ask, well, what would my children receive if their father pass away, or what would my children receive if their mother passes? So we have to ask that question because the survivor's benefit is available to children, to spouses, and to dependent parents.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that with us. Well, I know that it's been a tough week for you, being on so many different radio stations, being on many different platforms, explaining this over and over, so that the employees, employers, all can be on the same page in terms of the new self-employed regulations, and of course, not just that, but also what was some of the key findings of the 13th actual review. Lisa, thank you very much. I'll give you the opportunity if there's any closing comments that you'd like to make. You can go ahead and do so now.
Yes, contact us if you need more information. 440-3309, 440-6647, so you can call. Or you want to WhatsApp us, 458-6060 or 403-7512. And these conversations would not end. We would continue doing public education. In fact, although our public consultations, we would do less of it in terms of the big consultations, but we continue every day with workplace visits. If you want us to visit your church, if you want us to visit your community group, wherever you need these conversations, wherever you need more information. In fact, we're making a special appeal to our self-employed groups. So I don't know if there's an association of DJs, of hairdressers, of farmers, of, all beauticians, in fact, whatever type of business, vendors, whatever type of business you're involved in, you're self-employed, we're making an appeal to you. Our bus associations, call us, our taxi association, our farmers associations. We're asking you to engage us. We would also try to reach out, as we have started doing already, to host meetings with you to explain this. And it doesn't matter when you're having your meetings. Please just let us know. We would make ourselves available. I would make myself available to be wherever you are, whenever you need us, so we can make sure you get registered, to make sure you contribute, to ensure that you are covered, because no, NIS has made provisions. Yeah. And we got you covered. So contact us, and make sure that when something happens to you and you're losing income, you don't have to say, well, Lord, if I didn't know. And, somebody called me yesterday to find out, if somebody, they will be 60 next month. And I had to unfortunately say, well, that person, they were self-employed and they haven't been paying. They only have 300 contributions, so they can qualify to get a pension. We don't want that to happen. You're self-employed, contribute so that you can benefit.
Thank you very much, Lisa, and all the best to you and the team at the NIS.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You do likewise. And folks, we've been talking to Lisa Douglas, and she's the Public Relations Officer at the NIS. And that brings an end to our program for today. And we want to say thank you again for joining us. We did tell you that we really wanted to have this conversation, and so we have had that conversation, and I hope that it serves you well. All right. Thanks again, guys, and have a good one. God bless you.